Old money. Old money refers to families whose wealth has been passed down through multiple generations. These are not people who earned their fortune, they were simply born into it. Families like the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, and the Astors in the United States are classic examples. Old money tends to be quiet and understated. These families rarely show off their wealth. Instead, they invest in things that last: land, fine art, private education, and long-standing businesses. Their wealth is not measured in what they spend, but in what they preserve. The goal is always the same: to pass even more on to the next generation than they receive. New money. New money refers to people who earned their wealth within their own lifetime without inheriting it. They built it themselves, from scratch. Tech billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates fall into this category. So do entertainers, athletes, and entrepreneurs who grew up with nothing and turned a single idea into a fortune. New money is often more visible than old money. The mansions, the luxury cars, and the private jets tend to be on full display. This isn't always about arrogance. It is often the natural result of experiencing wealth for the very first time. Roughly 68% of the world's ultra-wealthy today are self-made, meaning new money has quietly become the dominant type of rich person on the planet, the tech rich. The tech rich are a specific breed of new money that emerged mostly in the last 3 decades. These are the founders, coders, and engineers who built companies that changed how the world works. What makes them different is that their wealth often grew at a speed no previous generation had ever seen. A startup launched in a garage could be worth billions within a few years. Companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon created some of the largest fortunes in human history, and they did it faster than any oil baron or railroad tycoon before them. The tech-rich tend to live modestly compared to their net worth, often still wearing plain clothes and driving ordinary cars, while quietly owning everything. The real estate rich. Real estate wealth is one of the oldest and most reliable forms of getting rich. These are people who built their fortunes by buying, developing, and selling property. What separates the real estate rich from other wealthy people is their patience. They think in decades, not years. They understand that land is one of the few things in the world that cannot be manufactured or duplicated. Some started by buying a single small property, renting it out, and using that income to buy a second one. Over time, that process compounds into enormous wealth. Real estate consistently ranks as one of the top 3 industries among the world's ultra-wealthy, sitting alongside banking and business services. The celebrity-rich celebrities, actors, musicians, and entertainers represent a type of wealth that is uniquely tied to fame. Their income often comes in large, sudden bursts rather than through slow, steady accumulation. A single hit album, a blockbuster film, or a viral moment can generate millions almost overnight. But what separates the truly wealthy celebrities from those who go broke is what they do next. The smartest ones, like Rihanna and Jay-Z, used their fame as a launching pad to build businesses. Rihanna's Fenty Beauty brand became worth more than her entire music catalog. For celebrity wealth, fame is not the destination. It is the starting capital. The athlete-rich professional athletes earn their wealth through a combination of contracts, endorsements, and, for the smartest ones, business investments. What makes this type of wealth unique is its urgency. An athlete's career is short, often just 10 to 15 years of peak earning potential. That reality forces many athletes to think about wealth differently than most people. LeBron James is perhaps the clearest example of an athlete who understood this early. Long before retirement, he built a business portfolio in media, pizza, and Spring Hill Entertainment that made him far wealthier than his basketball contracts ever did. The athletes who build lasting wealth are the ones who treat their playing career as a salary and build something else on the side. The investor rich. The investor rich built their fortunes not by creating a product or service, but by putting their money to work in financial markets. Stocks, bonds, hedge funds, and private equity are their tools. Warren Buffett is the most well-known example, a man who never invented a product but became one of the richest people in history simply by identifying great businesses and holding them for decades. What makes investor wealth different is that it is almost entirely invisible in the early stages. The investor rich often live quietly for years while their wealth silently compounds in the background. Then, one day, numbers become impossible to ignore. Crypto rich. Cryptocurrency created an entirely new category of rich person almost overnight. These are people who bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other digital currencies early, sometimes for just a few $100s, and held on long enough to see those investments multiply by thousands of times their original value. Some of the crypto-rich are young people who had no traditional financial background at all. They simply recognized something new and took a risk that most people refused to take. What makes crypto wealth different from almost every other type is how fast it appeared, and how volatile it remains. Fortunes that took decades to build in real estate or stocks were built in months in crypto. and in some cases, lost just as quickly. The inheritor. The inheritor is different from old money in one important way. They did not grow up in a dynasty. They received a large inheritance, perhaps from a parent or a grandparent, and that single transfer of wealth changed the course of their life. Some inheritors go on to grow what they received, treating it with the same discipline that old money families use. Others spend it quickly, unprepared for the responsibility of managing sudden, large wealth. Studies show that a significant portion of people who receive large inheritances lose most of it within a few years. Managing wealth, it turns out, is a skill, and it is not automatically passed down along with the money. The quiet rich. The quiet rich may be the most surprising type of all. These are ordinary-looking people, teachers, mechanics, accountants, small business owners, who spent decades quietly saving and investing and ended up with substantial wealth that almost no one around them knew about. They drive used cars, they live in modest homes, they clip coupons, but their investment accounts tell a completely different story. A study of over 225 millionaires found that the most common type was what researchers called the saver investor, someone who never had a dramatic wealth event, but simply made saving and investing a daily habit for 30 or more years. They are the least visible type of rich person, and according to the data, one of the most common.